But Israel has a PhD in deception, because it's Dajjal at the back of this, the mastermind. And Israel would not want to wage a big war and appear to the world naked, clearly, as an aggressor. No, that's not deception. Israel has to wage her big war and make it appear as though she was only defending herself.
Humanitarian pause or not, Israel doesn't want peace. It never did. Tel Aviv has already decided on the future of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, after the Israeli army razes cities to the ground, destroying populations of the Palestinians under the guise of a loud slogan of fighting terrorism. The territory of Gaza will be taken under the control of the Israeli army. This has been stated by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu himself. My friends, the Israelis declared war on Palestinians, saying they will eliminate Hamas, but Hamas has not been eliminated. Instead, Israel has committed a genocide in Gaza and created the future generation of resistance. Based on the actions of Israel itself, everything they've done in Gaza to date perfectly correlate with the term war crimes.
إلى التاريخ لننظر إلى الجزائر وننظر إلى فيتنام وغيرها من الدول التي تحررت كم دفعت ملايين من الشهداء. لذلك أنا أقول أن طريق المقاومة يجب أن تدفع فيه أثمان كثيرة، ونحن سنتحمل، وشعبنا الفلسطيني الذي تعرض لهذه المجازر أكثر من 10,000 شهيد، ولم نسمع أما تدفن طفلها وتعترض على وجود المقاومة في قطاع غزة.
Operation Al-Aqsa Storm didn't happen without the permission of Netanyahu. Of course, the Mossad were involved in this in some shape or form because they let it happen. And that's because they already had plans to evict Palestinians to the Sinai Peninsula. This has been confirmed by the Netanyahu regime. The land-grabbing entity Israel is playing a dangerous game with the lives of Palestinians, and the world right now is fully aware of their plans to expand in the region.
We know what happened in Pearl Harbor. Was it 1945? When the American government was aware that Japan was planning a massive attack on the American fleet, the Armada, parked in Pearl Harbor in perhaps Hawaii. And they did not take any steps to protect the ships and to protect the sailors in the ships. And they remained silent, and the American Armada was destroyed. And I don't know, maybe 2,000 men lost their lives when Japan launched this attack, and the Americans knew the attack was coming. And why did they allow it to attack? Why were they silent? Because they had a plan to put into action, and they needed this attack to take place to mobilize public opinion. And these innocent lives were lost because of the hypocrisy of the American government. The same thing happened in 9/11, when not only did the American government know that a terrorist attack was being launched on the World Trade Center, but the American CIA was a part of planning and executing the attack, of course, in alliance with their sister, the Israeli Mossad. I don't know who played the major role and who played the minor role. That's unimportant between two sisters. And they allowed the attack to take place, although they knew it was going to come to attack, was going to take place. And so many innocent people lost their lives. Of course, there were those who were warned not to go to work on that day. And of course, they didn't go to work, and their lives were saved. But the others who were not warned, they lost their lives on that day. And so now we say that it is impossible that Israel did not have knowledge that this attack was being launched a few days ago. If Israel was completely unaware, and if Israel was honest and truthful in saying we had no advance knowledge that this attack was being launched, then I say to Israel, from my sitting room here in the Caribbean island of Trinidad, if you are truthful, then a camel could also pass through the eye of a needle. No, no, it's not possible that Israel was unaware that this attack was being launched.
Iran's rulers promised to destroy my country, murder my people, and the response from this body, the response from nearly every one of the governments represented here, has been absolutely nothing. Utter silence. Deafening
From a
silence.
geopolitical point of view, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Israel has plans to ignite World War III. They'd like to increase tensions in the region so much that the United States gets involved directly. The average American doesn't want that. I know this for a fact. When we hear the American President Joe Biden, according to Reuters in a conversation with Netanyahu, called the occupation of Gaza Strip a big mistake, stressing that the creation of a Palestinian state is the only way to resolve the conflict. But the Zionist lobby in America will continue to push Americans into this big war, because according to Kabbalistic Talmudic Zionists, the Messiah of Israel can only come when there's a big war. Israel was built on this messianic concept to gather all the Jews around the world in Israel and then rule the world when the Messiah, Moshiach, comes. This is the big plan.
I recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
And America has a big role. It's not just the taxpayers who are paying for all this hocus pocus, but the United States in the fate of Israel is seen by Kabbalists as the big brother.
Burn their city to the ground. Yeah. I will find every rat hole that they hide in. And I will drop down enough explosives to scare God Almighty.
The Americans are already in Gaza and they'll establish bases out there under the disguise of protecting Israel. And with all the destruction out there in Gaza, they'll also say they're going to build the Gaza Strip, because they believe the Palestinians can't govern themselves on their own land, and the Israelis are too weak to fight wars on their own against Palestinian resistance factions. The risk of a big war is huge if the Americans take over Gaza. We know Israel won't control Gaza, because they can't, but Americans will have to step up. And of course, then the Chinese will get involved. Remember, America wants to connect India to Europe via Israel, the American version of the Belt and Road Initiative. The Chinese won't be too happy. They've worked on their initiative for a long time. China, which is aligned with the Muslim world and recently received delegates from Muslim nations in Beijing. I don't think the Chinese will be happy with Americans parking in Palestine. As Sheikh Imran Hossain says, Jerusalem has now become center stage. Jerusalem is crucial for any Belt and Road initiative. That's why you see a lot of Hindutva Indians who are Chinaphobic having a pro-Zionist stance. It's all about the money here.
به اون اشخاص باید گفت که شاید این همون چیزیست که اسرائیل میخواد. اصلا اسرائیل مایله که این جنگ رو مبدل بکنه به درگیری‌های وسیع‌تری مثلا بین ایران و آمریکا. در اون صورت اونی که اگر یه همچین اتفاقی بیفته اونی که جان سالم به در میبره اسرائیله. یعنی این معلوم نیست که از نظر راهبردی ورود عملی ایران به جنگ به سود آرمان فلسطین باشه. این یه نکته مهمیه که اسرائیلی ها سال هاست که آمریکایی ها رو تحریک میکنن به جنگ با ایران.
Israel will keep pushing for World War III, and they're already doing it. It was just the other day, according to the Voice of Israel, Israel's foreign minister warned the United Nations Security Council that if Hezbollah doesn't withdraw its fighters across the Litani River in accordance with Resolution 1701, it will lead to a large-scale regional war. So in this case, Israel will start a war on two fronts. The question is, Will Hezbollah agree to Tel Aviv's demands? It's highly unlikely. After all, reputation means a lot, and bending to Israel would mean losing face, which Hezbollah will most likely not do. Israel published some fake news via Reuters saying apparently Ayatollah Khamenei himself said Iran wouldn't get involved in Gaza because Iran didn't receive any warning about Operation Storm. But of course this is all not true, as it was denied by Iran's spiritual leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. War doesn't work like ABC. Iran is already involved as one of the biggest supporters of Hamas, but isn't public about it, because if it becomes public, the Americans can paint a pretty little picture about Iran being the boogeyman in the region and declare war on Iran, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. Therefore, most likely Hezbollah will not retreat and will intensify its battle with Israel. The Israeli army will strike Lebanon, and this will open a second front in this war, and this in turn will lead to direct American intervention in this conflict. The Americans are already developing a bill that would give the American president the right to use force against Middle Eastern groups, including Hezbollah. Obviously, if the United States strikes at Hezbollah, it will cause a new wave of anti-American sentiments in Muslim countries, which may affect the decision of their leaders to participate in the war on the side of Hamas and Hezbollah. In other words, the chances of Iran getting directly involved in Gaza are skyrocketing. And there you have it, a large-scale conflict with the prospect of a transition to World War III. My friends, who is the troublemaker on this planet?